everyone, and welcome to an episode of Living the Journey. I'm Aida Cuellar.
And I'm CJ Sanchez.
And today we're having a conversation with Aida Cuellar, who's actually my aunt. We're going to be talking about breaking cycles and ending addictions using alternative approaches. She's going to share her practices and tools that she implements on her journey through recovery that anyone dealing with addiction can use.
And Aida is a Valley native who we thank for sharing this vulnerable story with us. Aida's been through some serious ups and downs that ultimately led to an addiction problem, but that after that ultimately led her down the path to become a life coach, and now creating a new program that's an alternative to the 12-step program called the Afterlife. Ooh. So thank you so much, Aida. We appreciate you being here with us, and go ahead, let us know, kind of give us a little rundown on how this all started.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And actually, thank you for giving us a springboard to launch this. The Afterlife program was created for people like myself that was a chronic relapser. And I was working with a life coach. He was my meditation coach at the time. His name is Angel, Life Coach Angel. After about 2 years of relapsing, he's like, AA may no longer work for you. And I was really upset with him. And then about a year later, he's like, we really should do something and collaborate. And that was about 4 years ago. And at that time, I said, yeah, we can call it the Afterlife, Life After AA, or the 12-step program. And I kind of put it on the shelf. And last year with the pandemic and isolation and things, something happened with a family member who went through a really bad episode. And I was so obsessed with trying to help them that I was obsessed with trying to help them, like get them to a meeting, get them in rehab, get them this and that. And again, I was talking to Angel, and I'm like, dude, I can't let go of this idea or this thought. I've got to help him. And we all know in recovery that nobody can tell you need recovery. Only the person, they need to come to that self-realization and look for help. It's not going to happen any other way. And he said, don't look for trying to help them, look for the lesson for you. And that's when it dawned on me. I was like, we have to do the afterlife. Now we really have to do the afterlife. And so we started meeting last month, and we are planning. We have a Facebook page called The Afterlife. It's a private page, and we're in the building blocks right now, guys. So really, thank you for having me here.
Oh, well, thanks for being here, and thanks for being so vulnerable and open and to share with us. But tell us more about, what is the afterlife? What does that mean?
So it's basically, I was in addiction for a long time, and I finally realized that I needed help, and I went to rehab, and I went to AA, and I did that, and I relapsed for about a year and a half. And then I got sober, and it stuck. It stuck for about 4 or 5 years. No, I was actually 3 months short of 6 years, and something happened in my life. And it doesn't fix all your problems. Getting sober, you're still going to have problems. You're still going to have relationship problems, financial situations that you've got to face. Life comes on life's terms, right? And I relapsed, and I was having trouble, and that's when I found Angel. I was trying to replicate what I had in one city. I was trying to replicate it in another city. And when I got sober, I had a 12-step program. I had a church, and I had a meditation coach. And so I thought, okay, I got to recreate all those things again in this town. And I started to, and when I did that is when I met Angel. And I kept on relapsing, and he told me, he goes, maybe AA no longer works for you. And I was really upset with him. I was like, you don't understand. I'm an addict, I'm an alcoholic, and if I can't stay off the stuff, I'm never gonna make it. I'm gonna die. I literally had that mentality of, if I drink, I die, but I can't quit. Because for me, drinking led to drug addiction. I wanted the drugs.
What did he mean by it no longer works for you?
Because I kept relapsing. I kept coming back to him, and we would work together, and he said, it may no longer work for you. When I told him, you don't understand, he says, look, he gave me a perfect example. And it's, I can relate it to something that I saw in Grey's Anatomy. It says, doctors often have to make you sicker to make you better. Mm-hmm. If there's a bone that was broken that wasn't set properly, we have to re-break the bone. If there's too much scar tissue to heal a wound, we have to scrape that scar tissue off and make a new scar. And that is exactly, Angel told me, he goes, look, we're gonna have to re-break the bones. You're gonna have to go through those issues that are bothering you. But this time, I'm gonna be with you. We're gonna go through those issues together where you can process and heal properly. And
is that realization something that, as an addict, you and at that point, was that something that clicked right away, or was it already through some ups and downs of having relapse and whatnot that
it didn't click right away? It didn't click right away. I went back into a 12-step program. I was sober, but I left and I had a great job and I was working a lot. And I missed the community. And I moved back to the city where I first got sober, but the community had already changed. You know, neighborhoods change, people move away, new people move in, and I still was lost. And I was getting depressed. I wasn't drinking, but I was getting depressed. Yeah. And so fortunately, I was in a position where I could get a therapist. So I sought a therapist. And then B, I called Angel again. And, you know, of course, and he was there for me. We would talk at 11 o'clock at night. And, you know, I'm like, I have an issue. He's like, well, when do you have time? I'm like, 10:30? He goes, fine, call me. And we worked through it together. And it was always going back to the work. You know, he told me, he goes, you got to be willing to do the work. This isn't going to help if you're not willing to do the work. And some of the assignments that he gave me, and I didn't want to do. And he's like, well, you're going to stay there until we get through this. And with the work of a therapist, it made me more comfortable in talking about childhood trauma. You know, I'm a child abuse survivor, a sex abuse survivor, cancer survivor, addiction, recovery. You know, I've been through a lot of things. And being uncomfortable and talking about things that I felt shame for made it hard for me to tell anybody. And Angel provided that safe space. Also, you know, recommending a therapist. And I remember walking into the therapist's office, and I've been with her and finding the right therapist. I went to 3 different therapists, but finally found a therapist that worked for me. And slowly I gained confidence about talking about my shame, about the things that happened to me when I was young. And, you know, as a young adult going out into the world, you know, your parents tell you, well, you'll go to college here and you're going to follow these rules under my roof. And I'm like, screw you. I'm dying to get out of the house. And then I take off and I fall in bad places. And I didn't want to call my parents and tell them they were right. So I ran from my problems and I drank upon my problems because I was in fear of looking for solution. And so not to look at those issues, I drank and I drugged.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So what it sounds like, a lot of your healing journey, your recovery is really getting to the root of the problem instead of, you know, just, I don't want to say masking it, but it's really soul searching, it's digging, it's maybe asking yourself a lot of why, and then continuing down that question of why and finding things about yourself, or maybe some of the trauma that you've been through that you hadn't even processed, probably.
Exactly. And that was the one thing that Angel pointed out to me. He's like, you know, you see that shrub right there? And on the other side, there's a Starbucks. He goes, you can jump over that, go to Starbucks, get your cup of coffee. That shrub, those are your issues. They're still going to be there. The only way to heal is to go through those shrubs, reopen the wound, process it as an adult. And I'm right here with you. You're not alone. And we'll go through it and we'll heal properly. And we did that, and it took time. And last year when, you know, I found myself living in a hotel during the pandemic, I mean, alcohol sales went up 30%, guys, across the nation. And relapses, you know, friends in the community were relapsing, and it hurt me to see them because it was working for them. And I realized, you know, called Angel up. I'm like, dude, we really need to do the afterlife because there's so many people hurting, and sometimes you may not be able to bounce back. You may not be, that may no longer work for you. It's kind of like, you know, you're growing up and you wear this brand of jeans all through high school, college. Then you get in your 30s and that brand of jeans no longer looks that good on you, but you find another brand, right? That you feel more comfortable in, right? We're in our adult bodies. We're kind of already, so we're still achieving the same thing that we want, but in a different way with different practices.
I firmly believe that there's more than one way to do something. Right. And I mean, this is not the same level of conversation that we're having, but I used to train clients, and I would put them on a meal plan and I would put them on a workout program. But what I came to find out is that the same program for losing weight was working for one, but not for the other. You know, but there was always another method. There's always another approach. Yeah. And I think that goes for any aspect of life, whether you're trying to lose weight, put on muscle, solve a problem, or you're battling
sober
addiction and you're trying to recover from that.
Yeah, exactly. Just staying in solution. Yeah. Staying in solution. And sometimes being a part of a 12-step program is very rigid, you know, and you relapse and the first thing is like, well, you didn't do the 12 steps like you were supposed to. Mm. And sometimes, and I remember when I first started down that journey, I would do 1, 4, 6, 7. I'm not doing 9, never going to do 10, and skip to 11 and 12. And it was like, no, it doesn't work that way. You've got to do them, and you've got to do them in order. And I did. And it worked for X amount of time, for almost 6 years. But I had struggled for 2 years before that. Then I struggled 2 years after that. And in that time is when I met Angel. And he always says this when we're meditating, you know, he's like, there's no right or wrong way of doing it. You don't have to sit with your legs crossed. You don't have to, you know, be barefoot touching the ground. There's no right or wrong way. Just be in the moment.
That makes so much sense for exactly like what you were saying in the process of trying to recover from something. Everybody's triggers or things that they're not necessarily masking, but dealing with that may lead to drug or alcohol addiction are different. You know, you mentioned you had several that, you know, were just one of those alone can trigger somebody to, you know, turning to alternative methods to deal with it or cope or mask the dealing with those issues. I guess in your experience from what you've been through, have you been able to like to hone in on some of the things that you may be able to see in others that are not realizing that maybe certain, I don't want to say necessarily the 12-step program, but maybe certain things that they're implementing, it is not working, that you can kind of, that you all are looking to trigger or to kind of bring to their attention so that it may give them an alternative approach to recovering?
That's why we want to start the afterlife, and it's a private page on Facebook. You got to be invited, ask to be invited, we ask you a few questions because everybody's different. You know, I may be, you know, one person may be from child abuse trauma, another person may be from domestic abuse trauma, another person may have been bullied in high school, another person may be a part of the LGBT community and they're afraid of coming out. There's an array of different things, right, that brought us to our addiction. And it can be any kind of addiction, shopping addiction, food addiction. You know, it's very easy for us to zone out and ignore the issues that are making us sick. It's easier to watch Netflix than to do your homework, right? Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. And so when I started working with Angel, or a big part of, for me, was meditation. Mm. Meditation is key to my well-being. And mental health, I never wanted to go to a therapist. You know, in our culture, you know, esas cosas no se hablan. No digas nada. Cuando te vayas, you know, when you leave home, you don't talk about what happened.
Yeah. Everything that you've mentioned is something that que no se habla. You know what I mean? The fact that, like, if there's an addiction problem, or if, you know, someone's dealing with mental issues, or somebody's, you know, not in the closet and doesn't have the, you know, doesn't feel like they have a safe space to talk about it, or, you know,
which is exactly why we're here. Exactly. You know, we're providing this safe space, and we want to create the conversation.
Yeah, and I think it's so important.
And help our community.
Absolutely, yes.
And you sharing yours, being from this area, and you moved and you dealt with this outside of the area. And I know that I hope when we start these conversations, it not only allows people to relate to the topic, or to something, to know, maybe to reach out to you or to us to help them find those resources, but to also engage the idea of bringing more of those resources to our area, because we do lack that
Exactly.
very much.
Por mi gente, like that guy from Channel 5. Por mi gente. And it's not just for our culture, but for everybody. But in general, you know, we all share the same passion of wanting to help our community, because these are things that are not talked about in our community. Mental health issues are really a situation. And because of COVID, the news, the spotlight has come to mental health.
Yeah.
In the last several years. You know, we have life coaches and all. Nobody wants it. You know, they think it's just a fad.
Yeah.
You know, some people can't afford a therapist, a licensed therapist. And a therapist will help you with root issues. And I think a coach kind of just gets you from, you're struggling with career and you want to make a career change, and a coach helps you get there. Mm-hmm. Or you're at this level and you want to kick it up a notch, you know, because being a life coach, we're not licensed therapists, but we can help you get there. It's just like you know, when you're in soccer, you get a soccer coach, you know, your parents will get you a soccer coach to have private lessons so that you can be a better soccer player, right? But if you break your ankle, well, you're not going to go to the life coach, you're going to go to the doctor, because you're going to need medicines, or you need some sort of physical therapy that needs to be prescribed by a doctor. It's just a different avenue. And what we hope to do with the afterlife is give that avenue. Let's stay in solution. If we stay in solution, afterlife may not work for everybody, but it's a choice. You know, we're expanding that A, B, C, D, E. We're giving more choices. We're giving more avenues. And I think that's key for in our time as a country, as a people, as a human race, is offering solutions instead of pointing out, this is your problem or that's a problem you have. It's like, hey, you should try this. You should try that. I saw this on Instagram. Social media has brought us so many avenues of so many different people that we can reach out to. I was following on Instagram a life coach that's a parenting coach. And through her, she had a guest host that had a different type of life coach. And she said, hey guys, don't be offended if you don't want to come to me. Because I did some sessions with her privately, paid sessions. And she said, if I'm not your flavor, one of the co-hosts that I have this week while I'm on vacation may be your flavor. I found my flavor, like the perfect match. We're on the same wavelength. We're into astrology, the stars. So that coach being open and allowing us to, telling us, hey, I may not be your flavor. So afterlife may not be your flavor, but it's a flavor that's available.
That's an option. Yeah, absolutely. Aida, do you mind going into a little bit more detail on the tools that kind of really helped you make some changes? I know you mentioned meditation as one of them, talking to a therapist. Give us maybe somebody that is listening to this right now that is looking for a way to start, you know, utilizing some alternative method or practices to help. What can you shine in?
Absolutely. The first thing that we talk about at Afterlife, or when you come to Afterlife, is we want to hear your story. Write it down. Write it down from that little kid that picked on you in the 3rd grade, that pushed your head on the water fountain. That's one of mine. You know, that you think is not going to affect you. Like, I didn't think about that for years. And then going through the 12 steps, it talks about resentments, and you got to write down your resentments. And I had this one guy make me write down every single human being that I knew. It's like, okay, why do you remember that guy? I was like, because he's the one that pushed my head at the water fountain. I'm like, holy, he goes, okay, you have a resentment against that. You need to clear that up, because we carry this baggage and we stuff it, because nobody wants to be a crybaby. You don't want to go home and say, you know, this guy pushed me. And so you stuff that in. Those little things add up. It's like planting little seeds. And then you got this whole farm of ick in your heart. For me, you know, the 12 steps were very admitting that I had a problem. That was so hard, because I was afraid that I was going to shame my family, or that my family was going to be disappointed in me. Like, you know, what's wrong with you? You know, they were so happy that I went to recovery, but I thought I was going to disappoint them. Not everybody has the same drinking tolerance.
Right.
Not everybody, I thought a lot more people in my family drank. And then when I got sober, I realized more than half don't drink at all. Like, really? They're like, no, girl, you're the one with the glass all the time in your hand. So doing the 12 steps brought me to practices that I do on a daily basis, making a gratitude list every morning before my feet hit the ground. I open my eyes, good morning, God. And what am I grateful for? I'm grateful for my health. And, it's easy to name one or two things or five things. For me, it's a rule of five things. And you can't use the same thing twice.
Oh, I like that.
So,
I do that also. Just 3 things.
it's kind of difficult. But I recently heard a podcast in November, I shared it with Jenna, where they did a study on people that make a gratitude list of 5 to 10 items, people that make write a gratitude and write 3 or 4 sentences behind it. And then people that write a gratitude list of why they're grateful, what are they grateful in themselves. The group that had that something came from it, more positive, were the people that wrote down 2 or 3 sentences of that one thing that they were grateful for. So I kind of change my practices sometimes. I'll start to, today I'm going to do a list of 5. If I have time, I'm going to sit down and write down, why am I grateful for that person? Yeah. And sometimes I'm grateful for the guy at the corner, the homeless guy at the corner that always salutes me and says good morning to me. I give him Gatorades all the time. And I happen along to, that service work is another avenue that I use. I happened along 2 sleeping bags that somebody was throwing away. I put them in my trunk, and he and his wife live at the next exit. I didn't even know he had a wife. I was like, hey, do you have use for sleeping bags? He's like, yeah, me and my wife live right over there at the next underpass. And I'm like, get them out of the trunk. So, gratitude list is one of the things that is key. In the minute, sometimes I forget, we get up, we're late, and I'll be halfway through my day in my afternoon, and I'm in a crappy mood. And I'm getting irritable, and I'm, being short with people. What's wrong with me? And it's like, did I make a gratitude list today? And right there and then on my phone, I'll type 5 things that I'm grateful for. And my whole sense of being changes.
Yeah.
It changes. And then service work, helping others. It doesn't matter if you're going to volunteer at the food bank or you give a bottle of water to the homeless guy in the corner. I make it a habit when I go out to eat. There's a lot of places that serve a lot of food. Half the food I'll save. I'll take it home for lunch the next day, to work lunch the next day. But if I see a homeless person on the way home, I get it and I give it to them. Maybe a ribeye steak, but you know what? Maybe the only steak that person has this year. Does not matter. Those little things, and I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back, but I'm just giving you.
There's a path to the goodness, and there's a ripple effect behind that.
Exactly.
It's a new habit. You're breaking old habits, right? You're trying to recover from old habits that create negative effects, and you're taking on new habits that are creating a different positive effect. Those negative things and addiction led to had a ripple effect on your life, and you go into the things that you've been through, and now you're just recreating those ripples in a positive way, whether it be through inspiring others, inspiring yourself to help others. And I think that's just so beautiful to hear, and to have you share with us and with everybody, that's it's possible. We can get past things, and you can go up from down, and you're an example of that. That's really awesome to hear.
And we just have to be willing to try something different. For me, it was so, when I went to a 12-step program, they're like, you got to get this book, you got to read this book. And I'm like, that's not the Bible. And, I'm not going to do what another, that's not the Bible. And I was all pissed off. And then it was funny. I was sitting in a meeting and I was so pissed because they kept talking about this damn book. Right. And I got up and I went into the library. There was a library there with this big old dictionary. And I looked up the word Bible. And it had like the root meaning from, 12 CC, before Christ, BC, and what the root meaning. It's a manual for living, guys.
Oh, is that the exact definition?
Yeah. And I was like, well, King, now I got to go back in and listen. But it cracked my mind open, and it put me into acceptance. it cracked me open, because I was so adamant that no, that is not, I'm not following that, but the Bible's the only thing. It's like, really, Ida, how many times in mass did you read the Bible? It's like, yeah, right. So, it's just little tiny changes. And sometimes it's so hard for us to say, I'm going to stop drinking. It's like, can you just stop drinking for today? Instead of, if you want to have a drink, one of the things, when I used to drink in anger. Somebody would piss me off at work, and I'd go to the bar after, for happy hour, and have a shot and a beer. And the bartenders knew what kind of mood I was in, and I didn't know. And they're like, yeah, when you're in a bad mood, you always ask for a shot with your beer. And I was like, oh, damn. So, I didn't quit drinking for years, but getting sober, I was like, oh yeah, I was drinking at my problems, drinking because I was angry, instead of sitting down with a friend and saying, this person really pissed me off, and having that friend give me, that's Jack singing a song. Instead of sitting there and talking to a friend, a partner, and saying, well, why did it piss you off? Well, it reminded me of whatever, or it made me feel. We're so afraid of saying how we feel because we don't want to offend anybody. He made me feel less than. It affected my self-awareness, or it affected my pocketbook.
Hold on,
he borrowed $20 and he never gave it back, that bastard, and I'm at the bar spending another $20 drinking because he didn't pay me back the $20 when I saw him order a steak. It's ridiculous. But it's being aware, and journaling is another tool that I use. There's a book that we're using in our practice and in the afterlife. It's called The Artist's Way. It was written 25 years ago. And she talks about morning pages, and you have to sit down and write for 5 minutes. You may not know what to write, so you write. I don't know what to write, and it'll come, but you have to keep writing. And that I just discovered like in the last 6 months. I'm always changing my methodology. When I first met Angel, we did guided meditation. When I was here in Houston getting sober the first time, I had a meditation coach, and it was always guided meditation. When I met Angel, fast forward 6 years, and he's like, okay, tonight you're going to go home, and instead of giving me a playlist or a CD to listen to this meditation, I was like, so what am I going to listen to? He goes, 30 minutes, silent. I'm like, no, that can't happen. And he's like, yes, it can. And I remember 3 months later, he did a public meditation at this meditation house in San Antonio every other Wednesday. And it was 20 minutes guided and 20 minutes silent. And I remember sitting in that meditation, and he's like talking. I'm like, man, I can't wait for him to shut up so I can meditate. And I made that. I was like, holy crap, I can.
Oh, how you
silent meditation.
Wow, and, that's incredible.
So, and there are times that I don't meditate every day. I mean, I have a friend who meditates 10 minutes every day before he leaves the house. It's hard for me sometimes to do that because I'm lazy and I'm not a morning person. And I like to watch Good Morning America and drink my coffee and stuff. And so, there's times at lunch that I'll go to my car and just sit and be quiet. I put my ear pods in just so people think that I'm talking to somebody, and nobody knocks on my door. Because I've actually laid down in the parking garage, and somebody will knock, are you okay? And I'm like, okay, I'll just stay sitting up and put on my ear pods, and they'll think that I'm listening to something. But those, and exercise, movement. I used to be an athlete in high school. And then when I was young and out and partying, I used to dance, and I love to dance. I love music. And my therapist a few years ago, I was, having a lot of anger issues, and she said, I want you to make a playlist. And I was like, huh? And she goes, you need to make a playlist of the songs that get you in a good mood. And I want to see it the next time you come in. I've developed like 3 or 4 different playlists since then.
Yeah.
But when I'm feeling angst, I don't have time to go meditate, take a deep breath. And then it's like, you know what? Let me play the playlist because I can't leave the office right now. And, I've got to focus on this. But, listening to those songs kind of gets me happy. And then I forget about whatever the heck I'm pissed off about. It's just.
That's what we've talked about doing that. Yeah.
And being aware. And sometimes I'm not aware of doing certain things. But a coworker will say, what's wrong with you today? And instead of being offended, because the old me used to be offended. I'm like, what the hell are you talking? There's nothing wrong with me. Now I'm like, really? What, what did I do? And they're like, well, you were kind of short at the meeting. And I'm like, and because of the daily practice, and sometimes I don't check in. Nothing's done perfectly. I may not journal every day. I may not meditate every day. I try to do that gratitude list. That's like my golden rule.
Awesome.
And I'm reminded throughout the day when I'm having a bad experience, self-awareness is key. And these are the things that help us become self-aware. But when that person points it out, then instead of being offended, I ask, well, what did I do? What did I say? Or what happened? So because I want to find out what was it that triggered me.
Mm-hmm.
And working with a therapist has gotten me there, because even after I was sober, I went through depression and I attempted suicide. It's not fun. And for whatever reason, I ended up still here. And I'm grateful. And it's not the first time. I've done it twice. And there's a reason for me to be here. And I'm so grateful. And so for that,
You're amazing.
I am aware when I get there. And I have an amazing therapist. And I went to 3 or 4, but she's a perfect fit. And I can call her and leave her a message. And she will call me 8:30 at night. And there's times that I cannot, I'm no longer in an insurance plan. I have to pay cash. And she's not, and I've heard other therapists do this. They're like, even if you can't afford it, you still need to check in with me. I'm still going to see you. Because we have to, that human, it's not about making money. It's about helping one another. That is how we as a human race, we're going to raise the level, right? We're going to help each other. That's why we're creating this Living the Journey RGV. That's why we're creating Afterlife. We've got to be connected. And I think, unfortunately, COVID hit and there's been a lot of people that have suffered, but it has brought us to a creativity level where we're aware we need to be there for one another.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think all 3 of us can attest to that 100%. I think that's what's motivated us to start this, and that's what's motivated you to put the Afterlife into action. As we start wrapping up this conversation, I want you to share some of, I guess, what are the main things that we have to look forward to on the Afterlife, or do people that are looking to participate have to look forward to, what's to come?
So one of the things that you have to look forward to is that you have a community telling you, you don't have to stop drinking. You just, if you want to, you need help and you see this, we're going to help. We're going to be there. We're on this journey with you. You recognize it. You may not ever have to stop drinking, or you may have to stop drinking for 30 days, but we're offering support and a wealth of resources. We'll have, because we can do everything online now, but there's also that face-to-face contact that we sometimes need. So we want to just, have contacts in San Antonio, Houston, the Valley, therapists, life coaches, rehab centers. And we're just here. We want to build a community where it's safe, and you're not going to be shamed because you relapsed again. You're not going to be shamed. You're not going to be told, well, you didn't do it the way, you didn't follow those 12 steps in order. That's why you are. No judgment. There's no right or wrong way. Let's just help you get healthy.
And
mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Where can people find the Afterlife program?
It's on Facebook right now. It's the Afterlife. You can request to become a member, or, you can private message me, Aida Cuellar on Facebook, AC Cuellar on Instagram, Life Coach Angel on Instagram and Facebook. He also has a website. I think it's Life Coach Angel. Maybe not. I'll get back to you on that one.
Friend of ours. A good friend of ours.
No,
now.
I think it's Life Coach Angel.
Yeah, and we can share the tag you guys on the post, so that way, they had nowhere to reach out to you guys.
Yes, please reach out, and you can private message me if you don't want to be a part of the group. It's an autonomous group. Everything there is safe. We're looking to have weekly meetings where we can just share, but there's a message board, there's a storyboard where you can just, hey, I'm feeling this way, and somebody will respond. Angel and I will always be there, but there's going to be resources, there's going to be articles, there's going to be people telling their stories. And one of the things in the Afterlife is, when you come in, is you have the opportunity to put it all down on paper, write it down, or say it verbally. And then we want you to write what you imagine is your awesome life. And
Yes,
I guarantee you I'm a big believer in the law of attraction. Jenna knows this. Everything that I've ever wanted when I am centered has come to pass. Has come to pass beyond my wildest dreams. And it's just being good to yourself. When we're good to ourselves and our self-care, we're good to others, and it has the ripple effect. So we want to just build a community where if we fall and we stumble, hey, we're here to help you. There is no shame in stumbling and falling, and you don't have to get up in front of the room and say you relapsed again, because that was a huge thing for me, to not go back to meetings, to not pick up another chip, because everybody's like, oh, I have a ton of chips. And it's not, it's your path. There's no right or wrong way. It doesn't take 3 months. It may take 3 weeks. Everybody's different. Safe space. We have a situation. There's a pandemic, not just COVID, but alcoholism, drug addiction, not street drugs, but prescription drugs too. And there's stuff behind it. And we're here to help you, support you through that journey. Let's re-break the bones and set them right. Let's take off that scar tissue and make you a good scar.
You're so awesome. I love you. I think you're incredibly inspiring, and I appreciate your vulnerability.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is not an easy conversation, but I know
it's not. But you guys make it easy. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I know that you're here because you're meant to help people, and you're doing it already today by being here. So thank you again, and I look forward to seeing what happens with your life coaching. You're going to be a life coach, and
yes, and I'll be back in the Valley, and when I've traveled as a builder, I'm in construction. Everything that I learn here, and I go down there and I share with my brothers, or I tell other builders, man, this is what they're doing, and when people ask me where are you from, I'm like, I'm from Texas, and they're like, yeah, but what part? I'm like, name it. I've lived there, but Houston, San Antonio, and the Valley have been my areas, but I always want to bring back something to the Valley, because that's where I'm going to retire, and I want our community to evolve and to evolve. They always say it takes like 10 years for anything that hits in the metropolitan area before. Well, why can't we're growing just as fast, if not faster, than Houston, so why can't we be evolving now? Right?
I believe in us.
So thank you guys for having me.
We're blessed to have you, and we're glad that you're bringing all these resources down to the Valley. And we thank you for providing this for not just our audience and our followers, but for everybody that needs this kind of outlet. So thank you so much for that and for sharing with us. We really do appreciate it.
And guys, if you know anyone that is struggling with addiction and they're looking for some solutions, share this video with them, and share
yes, please,
the Afterlife program Facebook page. Share Aida's Instagram handle and Facebook information, so that we can support each other and be here for each other.
Absolutely.
There is a solution, guys. There's always a solution.
Amen. Love you so much.
Thank you so much, Aida.
Thank you.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
My adopted nephew over there.
There you go. Yes. You gotta come. We gotta make this happen in person. We're ready for you to come soon. Guys,
I've got some houses I've got to go take care of in a couple of weeks. I'll definitely hit you up. We're going for lunch.
I'm down. You let me know when. Thank you.
All right, mijito. Guys, thank you again.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.